Did you know that Magnus Carlsen had chess anxiety? He once stated in an interview about after having a bad game, if I'm going to play like this, I will have to quit playing chess. And I sometimes get this feeling of anxiety. I especially felt it during the World Championships in 2016 when I was in a bad position after 8 or 9 games. I thought, how can I ever show up at a chess tournament again? So, everybody struggles with chess anxiety, you, me, and the greatest chess player of all time. I want to make this video specifically because I've struggled with this. During my last tournament at World Open, I was pretty much on the floor crying before my game, so scared. I felt like I'd already lost before I even walked into the room. So I wanted to give you some of the tips that helped me get out of my chess anxiety and become the best chess player that I can be. Something that really helped me was starting a process of prepping before games. So, a lot of people think prepping as what super GMs or GMs do against their opponents to know their openings and to go over their own opening prep. But for more novice players such as myself, anyone under that like 2400, 2300 FIDE mark, prepping can take on a totally different meaning. So nowadays, a lot of people have chess.com profiles or have their games up on the internet. And sometimes it helps me personally just to be able to go through their games, look at what openings they're playing, and try to prepare what I'm going to play against it. It doesn't have to be a super intensive process, but it does help a lot. There's also some resources such as Opening Tree, where if you know their chess.com profile, it will tell you what openings they play most often. So this helps me a lot. But in those situations where they don't have, a bunch of games, some preps you can just do is just look over your own openings. Don't spend a bunch of time on it. Honestly, resting is the best thing for you. This is more of a psychological tip of just feeling like, all right, I know I remember everything. I know I'm ready to go. And sometimes what they say is being prepared is what helps you feel the most calm. So, why is chess so stressful? There are tons of reasons, but here are some of the main ones. Unlike other sports, chess is really all or nothing. In any other sport, like I used to be a gymnast, if I did a routine about 98% accurately, my back handsprings were great, my back tucks were great, but, I messed up on a switch leap or something, I would still be getting a good score. In chess, it is not like this, guys. It is not like this. You can be playing a great game, you can be in a great position, you make one mistake, and the game is over. And this can be exceptionally stressful for people to feel like every single choice could be the one that makes or breaks the game. So, this is something very, very unique to chess, but it's also just a small switch in your mentality because it doesn't just exist for you. This weakness doesn't just exist for you, it also exists for your opponents. You could be in a very bad position and they can make a blunder and you can take advantage of it and win the game. And overall, this ends up happening like 50% of the time. Luck evens out. Sometimes you're going to make your mistakes, sometimes they're going to make their mistakes. And, a lot of it does have to do with preparation and how much you're studying and how hard you're focusing on this game. But sometimes it really just has to do with things out of your control. Like maybe you didn't get enough sleep that night, or maybe you're very unfamiliar with this position, or maybe luckily you got into a position that you've just played a game and you analyzed and you know it super well and your opponent doesn't. But it's just very important to know that this will even out. Any of these factors that are outside of your control, which is what we tend to get most stressed about, they will end up evening out for you and your opponent at, kind of similar rates. Something kind of silly that also helped me so much was making a playlist for before games. I think mine is called something very stupid like chess hype or something, and includes like X Gon Give It To Ya and like American Boy and Gold Diggers. Like it's all the stupid early 2000 songs, but it's something that I can just like put on before my game and turn off my brain and just vibe to, dance to. I feel like creating a playlist before a chess game is so fun and so important. And it also will train your brain, right? This is psychology. It will train your brain to feel a certain way when this playlist goes on. So, for example, listen to the playlist when you're going for a run and you have those endorphins, and listen to this playlist when you're doing something really fun, when you're dancing in your kitchen. And you'll start to associate this playlist with good things. And then when you play it before a chess game, you are going to start feeling like more in the mode of how you felt when you were going for the run or when you were dancing in your kitchen. So this is something that's helped me so much. I'd be interested in your comments if you have any specific songs you'd want to put on your playlist. So let me know because I'm always looking for new music. Have you ever lost a really bad game and just felt so much anxiety? Maybe it's online, you finally reached, say, 1500, and then you play a few games and oh no, you're back at 1400 and you're just feeling so bad about yourself, so much anxiety. Well, these post game, or at least post bad game anxieties, are such a huge reason that a lot of people end up quitting chess. It's really, really difficult to deal with this. And since it's such a singular sport, you're not really playing with a team most of the time, you're going to have to deal with it alone. So I want to go through my own experience with this because I know I really, really struggled with it and how I managed to get my headspace a little bit out of this. Like, I still struggle with it, as everyone does. We're all human, but there are some things, some small psychological tips that do help. So I would feel this a lot, especially what would happen to me is after games where I would lose, like game after game, I would begin feeling like I can't physically win a game. For example, I knew I was playing up during my last tournament, and not only was I playing up, I was playing up, up. I was playing people maybe 600 rating points higher than me every single game. And I was getting really, really good games out of it. Multiple games where I had a completely one position, but I just didn't feel confident in my skills enough to really take advantage of that position. I started really just giving up. Like, I had a game where at an end game and I was down upon, instead of fighting where it was probably a draw, I just gave up and I messed up a tactic and I actually had a draw after that, a forced draw, and I just gave up in my head when I was like, okay, how do I win a game? What I did that really helped me was I have a few favorite chess players and I went over some of their wins that I've gone over before. And I just kind of looked at how they took this position and slowly made it better and better until they won. And then I also looked over some of my past OTB games where I did really well. I had this beautiful Karakon game that I really liked, and I looked over it again. I was like, okay, look, Jules, you could do that. You could do that. You can do anything. You can win a game. Just really reminding yourself of your past wins by looking at that one online game against an FM that you just love, that you sent to your mom or whatever. I send my chess games to my mom. It's fine. Or that OTB game that you were so proud of, just reminding yourself what a win looks like. And maybe if you don't have as much of that experience, just looking at the people that, you idolize or you want to be like one day and looking at their chess games and kind of taking a step back and seeing how people can actually convert those positions again. You did not forget how to win a game. You did not. I did not forget how to win a game, but sometimes it takes getting ourselves out of that kind of toxic mindset to remember that. Don't get me wrong, humility is a great trait, but my next chess psychology tip for you is to be just a little bit delusional. None of us probably feel like we're the best chess player, except for maybe Magnus, and I don't even know if he feels that way. But it's very, very important to have this kind of switch in your brain that you can turn on and be like, I'm the best chess player of all time. All my tactics are going to work. Everything's going to work. And there will be those times when you make a move on the board and you let go of your hand and all of a sudden you realize you just made a huge blunder, or a tactic you calculated doesn't work. You miscalculated something. You didn't see something. You didn't see they could take the bishop with check. There are going to be those times. But you really just need to trick yourself into thinking you can make no wrong moves. Everything that you calculate, you're going to put in the time, you're going to put in the focus. Everything you calculate, you're going to be 100% sure of. Just trick yourself into feeling that way, because honestly, I would much rather miscalculate a tactic and lose a game every now and then than never go for any of my ideas because I don't trust myself. And it's so important to survive a game like this, to really get better. You need to be pushing yourself. You need to be going for that tactic that you've calculated as best you can, but it's very, very difficult to look at all those lines. You need to be going for that. And you know what? If you mess up, you're going to analyze it later, and that's fine. But we're not even thinking about this at this point. You need to walk into that game with your playlist that we talked about, right? Being like, I am the best chess player in the world. Everything I do is going to succeed. That doesn't mean you're not focusing. That means you're focusing even harder, because if you put your mind to it, you can do whatever you want to and you can achieve whatever you want to achieve. Is it a little delusional? Yeah, maybe. But really, it's going to get you far better results than not trusting yourself. A study showed that drinking water actually helps your memory. Now, this might sound super stupid. You might be like, okay, duh. But hear me out. So, the interesting thing about the study is it's not just small amounts of water. So, you could intake a small amount of water in the study and still have it quench your thirst. But it took a larger drink, up to, I think, 500 ml was what they tested, for you to improve your working memory. So just always having water by you is incredibly important. I will link the study below if you're more curious. Maybe my more scientifically minded folks can really take a look at it, tell me what they think. This seems to really ring true. I've seen tons of studies about this. Always having a bunch of water, not just enough so you don't feel thirsty, but just continuing to drink a bunch of water, especially when your brain's moving at such high speeds, will help you perform better. And just knowing these small things will take away some of that unknown that makes chess so stressful. Like, you don't need to be losing games because you're dehydrated or haven't been eating well or haven't been sleeping well. Taking care of your body is so important to minimize these feelings of anxiety. And nothing is a better breeding ground for this anxiety than not eating right or not sleeping right. My next tip is a little bit unusual, and it's to get angry. So I don't mean anger like this. What I mean is get angry instead of sad after you lose games. Let those games motivate you to continue to become a better player. Really try to make that shift into your head. You don't need to be this out of control anger, but just really understand why you lost a game and let it motivate you. Let it make you angry enough to improve. This is so much better than just feeling sad and being like, I'm quitting chess, which I've said that a lot. But you don't need to feel that way. Try to have this like active shift in your brain that every time you lose a game, it's going to be fuel. It's going to be motivation for you to work harder. So in 4 months, the people you lost to who are still the same rating, aren't looking at their games, they're going to play you and they're going to see such a difference because you have been using those games to get even better. If you were winning every single game that you were ever playing, you'd probably be playing people under your level, and I promise you, you would not be getting as good. Take two people, put one in a category where they're the lowest rated and put one in a category where they're highest rated and just have them play games and see who improves at the end. It would 100% be the person who's stretching themselves. And this includes at tournaments. Stretch yourselves. Don't be afraid to put yourself in these categories where you're going to lose a lot, where you're not going to win these games. Put yourself in categories where you're going to get good games that you can analyze. You're not going to be swept off the board, but that you can still really take a chance to get angry and to improve and just to be a better player. So here I was at this tournament playing a game as black against someone over 500 points ahead of me. Now, I had all these thoughts about this game. I felt like I was going to win this game. So not only is this a pretty good position for me, I mean, evaluation-wise, I'm doing a little bit better, but also my opponent had about 3 minutes on their clock to make 15 moves, 10 moves, something like that, and I had a bunch of time. And their position is just really uncomfortable. So I was very proud of myself. It's by no means an easy position to play, but I felt like I should go for a tactic. This tactic is one that does work eventually, but take here. My idea, I did calculate, it was what they do when you go g4. I can actually go queen d4 here. And what I was looking at is if they end up, taking this, obviously I get the rook. If, they're going to have to defend right now. They can't just take any pieces at the moment. And also the queen is going to be pinned at some point. So let's say I take here. If they take my rook, I can just check them and I'm going to win the queen. So there are a bunch of different calculations I did going into this. But I did move a little bit quicker than I should have. I just felt very confident. I knew they didn't have a lot of time. They went rook here, and I started freaking out. I started freaking out because I didn't trust myself. I didn't trust my tactics. Now, this is not the best tactic in general. It doesn't quite work as I wanted to, but this is not bad for me by any means. Bishop takes is fine. It's fine. So my whole idea here was if they take here, I can just win the queen. What I didn't see in my calculations is queen takes e6, check. So I started freaking out. And here's the thing, guys. There's one move here. There's one move that if I make it, I can force a draw. And that is king h8. And the idea behind it is if they take here now, right? I actually have this interesting move of bishop takes h2. Bishop takes h2. If they take this, I'm all of a sudden actually not doing even badly at all. I can take here, they'll just try here. I'm going to end up getting all my pieces back, and it's going to end up being fine for me. And they're in kind of a rough position. I even have these rook takes f5 tactics. It's fine. It's fine. So what they're going to end up doing to avoid that bad position is they're going to have to go here. And this is kind of a forced draw. If they want anything but a draw, it's going to end up being not so good for them. So instead of taking the time to find something like that, I had just felt like I was seeing my losses dwindle. I was so scared. I just felt like I'd already lost in my own head during the game. So I end up going rook f7, and this just loses the game. This just loses a piece. There's no real coming back from this. And I played the rest of the game like I'd lost. My tactic did not go the way I wanted it to, and mentally I just shut off. I didn't even look for any ways to save it. And this is a very important chess psychology tip of just looking for everything you can, no matter if something doesn't go your way. I know we've all felt it when we've miscalculated something and you get that like tense feeling in your chest. But there are a lot of times when you can end up saving your position or they're not going to play it perfectly. And you need to still keep your head in the game. No matter what, you need to be able to shut out those voices and play to the very best of your ability till the end. And this is very difficult, especially in those 9 round tournaments or tournaments where you're losing a lot or maybe you're not having your best performance. But it's so important just to remind yourself of stories like this because it happens way more often than you would think. Chess anxiety and all of these bad feelings related to chess is brutal. It can take something you love and turn it into just the worst experience for you. There were times where I was in a game and I was like, I can't play chess anymore after this. This is just so tough for me. I feel like a failure. I feel like I'm just constantly stressed before games. I feel like I'm not doing anything right. And it really started to turn something I love into something very insidious. So it's so important to me to make this video and to kind of share these tips and tricks to not only do better at your chess games, but to really manage one of the things that can hold you back the most, which is your anxiety. And it's really important to recognize this anxiety as something that's can be potentially very harmful, but it's also very important. Chess anxiety isn't something you should just live with and embrace as a fact of life. There are things you can do to mitigate it and to make it better. Making a playlist, really using that anger to get better, making sure you don't make these small mistakes in a game that are just based on your psychology. You don't want to perpetuate that cycle. These are all things that are so important. But really, I just wanted to stress how crucial recognizing the possibility of just chess anxiety being an awful thing in your life is. Like don't just disregard it. Don't just think, oh, everyone goes through it. Really try to get better. My last tip is something about elo anxiety. So you might have heard this. I know Gotham Chess did a video on it. I know it's all over the internet. It's the anxiety you feel based on your rating and your numbers and your rating going up and your elo going down and feeling like you're not at your level. So I think a lot of us feel like whenever we're getting to a new rating, especially in maybe Blitz or an online chess, that level that we're at, we don't deserve to be there. And that creates a level of anxiety because you feel like at any point your rating's going to go down. It's going to prove that you don't deserve to be there. A lot of people just don't play, and I'm guilty of this too. I'm guilty of getting to a certain rating and just not playing for a while because I didn't want my rating to go down. I didn't feel like I actually could be there. Now, the most important thing to note is that your rating is a scale. It's going to go up and it's going to go down, but you're still at the same level. And as you get better, that scale will shift. But you can't trick the scale. The only other thing you can do is to just stop playing, just stop playing. There's no way to trick that. Whatever rating you're supposed to be, it will even out eventually. I think there's even a bell curve that shows this, that whatever rating you're supposed to be, you are going to get there eventually with a certain number of games. There's no way to trick it either way. If you're really supposed to be 1500 online, then no matter how much you tilt, you're going to go to 1500 online again. So you can very much appreciate these new highs you've reached. You can appreciate your new peaks, but it's important not to use these as like a measure of your worth. You don't really want to be like, okay, I'm 1500 now. Anything below that is a failure because you are going to go up and down. And everyone understands that. There's no shame in tilting. One of my tips for tilting is just honestly to cap yourself at a certain number of games a day or a certain number of rating lost. Usually I think 30 points is good. Like if you're losing more than that, it might not be those natural tilts. It might just be that you're not playing the best you can because you're tilted or you're not feeling good that day. So really it is important not to mess with your mind by just playing a bunch of games when you're tilted, but it's also important not to really put as much focus onto that number. And trust me, as a streamer, like I feel like streamers, especially chess streamers, have a lot of personal ego attached to our rating, right? Like I want to prove that I'm good, and we also show our rating to a bunch of people. So it can be especially detrimental or especially almost degrading when we tilt again, and then all of a sudden I have to go on stream and be like, "Hey guys, you know how I just reached that new elo number, that new rating number? I'm 200 points lower now." It can feel super tough. So trust me, I understand it. I really do. But ultimately, it's no way to live because you're always going to get to that new peak. And if that new peak comes with new anxiety, you're really just going to have to shift how you view your rating. Thank you all. I hope this helped. I would love to hear what you think in the comments below. I'd also love to hear what kind of things helped you with your chess anxiety and what advice you would give other people. I feel like this is something we all go through. I think chess psychology is fascinating. Let me know if you have any other topics you want us to discuss. Make sure to subscribe, like, and comment. I really appreciate the support. And visit me at my Twitch channel. I stream Jules Gambit on Twitch, and I would love to see you there. Bye.